this section of the course, we'll be looking at understanding the role of video graphics and motion design in visual storytelling. So that is what we'll be looking at, understanding the role of video graphics and motion design in visual storytelling. So in the introductory lesson, we looked at motion design, what motion design is, what motion graphics are, where motion graphic designer is, and other few basic concepts. But now we're going to move on to, as I earlier said, looking at what is the role of this motion design we're talking about in visual storytelling. So we're going to look at what role, what part does motion design play in visual storytelling in today's world. Okay, and for us to be able to understand the role of motion design in visual storytelling, we must first of all be able to understand what visual storytelling is. I know we have not yet defined that visual storytelling. Just going by the name visual storytelling, it tells you that it has to do with visuals. That's vision. It has to do with what you can see. Visual storytelling, that is telling stories through what can be seen. Because by research, it is proven that the human brain will tend to keep more what it sees than what is heard. So what you see, it tends to be retained better in your memory than what you hear. And so looking at what visual storytelling is, simply put, visual storytelling is the art of telling a story through the use of visual media. That's media you can see, such as video, photography, illustration, infographics, and animations. And the purpose of this is to capture the attention of your audience quickly and effectively. Are we together? Take, for example, you want to do an advert of a business, and the advert is just purely audio, and people cannot see anything about the business. There's no video to show about the business. There are no photographs. There are no illustrations. There's no animated graphic which can capture the attention of the target audience. You see, it may become not that interesting or boring, but when there's a video or there's some animated graphics which you use for the advertisement, you see, it captures the audience because there's something they see and it helps them to retain and remember what this person is talking about. That is basically what visual storytelling is all about. So the next thing we'll look at are the types of motion graphics. So there are many types of motion graphics, so many types of motion graphics. And remember, types of motion graphics are not the same as categories of motion graphics, where all the types of motion graphics we have fall under the two categories which we have seen before, which is 2D or 3D. So whatever type of motion graphic we will look at here either falls under 2D or 3D. So the first type of motion graphic I want us to look at is animated typography, what we call animated typography. And simply put, by definition there, you see it says animated typography is animating text to create dynamic messages. That is simply just taking text, normal text, right, and animating it, as moving it, giving it animation, putting it in motion in order to create a dynamic message. And this animated text or animated typography most of the times gives emphasis on keywords or highlights important information. Are we together? So these are just texts that have been animated. This is a type of motion graphics, that's animated typography. They are just texts that have been animated and to create a dynamic message, that is to create a message. And at times they will just emphasize on something, on a point, like maybe let's say, for example, like if you have watched lyrics videos, you always see those texts appear. That's animated typography, because the lyric videos are passing a message. That is, you are not only listening to the audio, but they are emphasizing on the words. They are showing you those words. The words are being displayed on the screen so that you can see them and understand what is being said. And so that is what animated typography is all about. Now, the second type of motion graphics I want us to look at is animated graphic loops. And animated graphic loops are motion graphics that use repetition and variation to create a continuous animation. That is, when I say this, what I mean is, first of all, the word loop there, I will use the word loop. The word loop, that LOOP, means something which is repeated, that is it constantly repeats, that is, it does not stop. It's a repetition. So animated graphic loops are another type of motion graphics wherein the idea there is to make the graphics to be in constant motion, but they should be repeating, should be done repeatedly, such that it's in a loop. That is constantly repeating. It does not stop. It just repeats itself. And most of the times, these animated graphic loops are used as backgrounds. Are mostly used as backgrounds for projects most of the times. And examples of this, as I've put there, are seamless loop that repeats the same animation without interruption. Now let's take a look at a video example of what I'm saying. Now look at this example, this video of an animated graphic loop. You will see that the graphics in this video are in motion, right? But you see they are constantly repeating themselves if you look at it closely. You see that's why I say they're in a loop. That's a repetition. You see they are all moving graphics. They are animated. You see like this one, for example, is repeating. It keeps repeating. It's seamless. That is, it repeats itself. And as we said, most of the times these kind of graphics are used as backgrounds for videos. Are we together? So this is just an example of an animated graphic loop. Okay guys, so the next type of motion graphics I want us to look at are motion templates. Motion templates. So what are motion templates? Well, motion templates, these are simply pre-made motion graphics, right? That is, they have already been animated. Someone else has already done the animation and everything, the composition and everything. And all they do is they give you now for you to edit and fit in your own stuff. So with motion templates, that is with templates, let me put it out with templates, they are just motion graphic types that have already been, the animation has already been done, and all you need to do is just to edit it. That is, make some changes, customize it to the way you want and use it. You don't need to do the animation from scratch. It has already been done by another designer. I don't know if you understand. And these templates, you can download them from online sources, like some of the vendors have named the Envato Elements, Motion Array and Mixkit, or you can buy them from the same places I've mentioned there. The next type of motion graphics I want us to look at are explainer videos. And explainer videos are simply a type of motion graphic which use three main components, right? That is animation, narration, and music to create informative or educational videos for your projects. So the concept with explainer videos is that there are three components. Number one is the animation. That is the process of where the graphics are animated. And then number two is most at times always accompanied by a narration. That is someone narrating a story while the graphics are being displayed. And the third component is music. There's always a background sound playing in explainer videos. And examples of these explainer videos could be whiteboard animations and cartoon animations. You may have seen some of them, like the whiteboard animations where you see like a hand drawing some kind of animations and a voice explaining on the ground. With that said, let's look at this example of an explainer video.
Are you looking for explainer video examples? Well, you have come to the right place, because this is a perfect example of how to make an awesome explainer video. Number one is you need to grab attention with an animation, with awesome text, or with fun music that you're listening to right now. Number two, you need to explain your market's problem. And number three, you need to explain how you solve that problem. That is all you need in an explainer video.
So guys, that is just an example of an explainer video. And that will take us to the fifth type of motion graphic we're going to look at today, which is product animations. Product animations. And what are product animation graphics? So product animations are motion graphics that use 3D models. That is, product animations are mostly 3D. They use 3D models, they use lighting and texture to create realistic and detailed representation of products. That is, at times you can watch a video together where like a company wants to advertise their products. So a motion designer is going to be called to make a product animation that you make a 3D model of the product. Let's say a Coca-Cola company or a Pepsi company will hire a motion designer to make a 3D model of their product, animate it so that they can use it. That's what a product animation is. So what you just watch is an example of a product animation. And so we're moving to the next type of motion graphics, which should be animated arts. And animated arts are simply motion graphics that use animation and sound to create persuasive and compelling advertisements for your products or services. So the word ads there simply means advertisement altogether. So in animated ads or animated advertisements, you are just simply using the animation, the animated graphics, and sounds to persuade people to get your services or products away together. And please, animated art is different from product animations because product animations focuses mainly on using 3D models together with sound. But animated art, it is not limited to 3D models. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. Okay, guys. Okay, guys. So the seven type of motion graphic we look at the animated logos, and logos give a visual representation of a brand to its target audience. So animated logos are just simply a motion graphic type in which elements from a company's logos are animated to be able to project the company to its target audience. Are we together? So it shows the animation of elements from a company's logos. Like you may have seen some big brands like Nike or Pepsi or Samsung or Apple having animated logos, just presenting just elements of their company's logo being presented in an animated way to their target audience. So these are some basic examples of animated logos as you can see there. So guys, having looked at the different types of motion graphics, that is the different types of motion graphics, there are many more. I'll provide some notes for you which you read at your free time. So having looked at these different types, now we have to go to the main thing which we have to look at in this session, which was the role of motion design in visual storytelling. But we could not just dive into that without having first of all look at the different types of motion graphics we have and what visual storytelling was all about. So having looked at that, now we are going to look at the role of motion design in visual storytelling. One of the first rules of motion design in visual storytelling is that it simplifies complex information. Altogether, complex information in the sense that there are some things which are very difficult to be understood by the layman, that if in case they are just explained without showing a graphical illustration or animation, it makes it difficult to people for people to understand. But when these explanations of complex concepts are accompanied by animated graphics, it makes it easier for the target audience to get the message you are trying to convey. So that's very important. So you see, in visual storytelling, that's one of the first roles motion design plays. So going by our notes we have there, it says animation is a powerful tool for simplifying complex information. Are we together? That's through motion design we do animation. Are we there? It says it can break down intricate concepts into digestible and easy to understand visuals. That's it breaks down complicated concepts into digestible. That's into little bits which make it easy for people to get and easy to understand visuals, thereby aiding in knowledge retention. Are we there? So this is just what I'm from saying. That through animation, that's motion design, complex information is simplified and broken down into digestible bits, thereby making it easy for people to retain, that's remember and understand. That's it for one of the first rules. Now, one of the second point we'll look at as a role of motion design in visual storytelling is the emotional connection. Let's read what we have there. It says animated characters and scenes can evoke emotions and empathy, thereby fostering a stronger connection between the target audience and the story. Through motion, facial expressions, and body language, animations can convey emotions more vividly than static images. Simply, what this point is making us understand is, at times At times for the target audience to be able to connect to whatever you are presenting to them, at times they will need that emotional connection. They will need to feel that emotional, they will need to get that connection with the message you are conveying. So through motion design, are we together? Through motion design, those animations, those animated characters can bring in that connection of emotion which is needed for the target audience to be able to carry along and get the message you are conveying, rather than just portraying just static images. Just imagine just portraying just pictures. That emotion will not really be there. There will not really be that emotional connection between your target audience and the message you are trying to convey. So, but when you have these animated features, these animated characters, so maybe you are trying to talk about refugees suffering and you animate this an animation of maybe a child crying or people crying, it creates an emotion which helps the audience to connect to what the message you are conveying. I hope we understand what I'm saying. So that's very important in visual storytelling. Are we together? Okay, we'll look at the third point, which is memorability, and this point just has to do with the fact that it is easier to remember elements which have been animated. Are we together? It's easier to remember stuff which you watch which were animated. So that this is a very straightforward point. It's very easy and straightforward. It's nothing complicated. And if you see what we wrote there, it says motion when used strategically enhances the memorability of content. That is when motion is done strategically, it helps your target audience to remember with ease what you are portraying. And it goes further, say animated elements are more likely to be remembered than static ones. That's obvious. Things which animate, you understand what I'm talking about, right? And thereby contributing to a better recall of the story or message being conveyed. So this point is straightforward. So the fourth point we'll look at is brand consistency. So brand consistency. So businesses and brands at times you can use animated content to maintain a consistent visual identity. Altogether, when we talk about visual identity, we'll talk about the elements which a brand uses to project itself to its customers, to its clients. So these elements could be logos and so on. So through motion design, these brands can maintain a consistent visual identity. Like for example, a brand uses a particular logo animation on all their platforms. That is, on Facebook, they use the same logo animation. On Twitter, the same logo animation, or what is called X now. On Instagram, the same logo animation. So that helps to keep a consistent visual identity across their platforms because using the same logo animation. Are we together? And this would in turn reinforce the brand message and help to create a cohesive brand expression. And I talk about a cohesive brand expression, I mean like a unified brand expression. That is everything being together. The next point we're going to look at, the fifth point under this topic, is adaptability to various platforms. We together adaptability to various platforms. So motion graphics can run across many different platforms. Are we together? Motion graphics can run across different digital platforms that a business has. It's not limited to any platform. You can use motion graphics on Facebook, you can use motion graphics on Instagram, you can use motion graphics on the website, you can use motion graphics on TikTok, you can convey your messages through motion graphics on Twitter. So it is not limited to any platform. There is no particular platform where motion graphics can be used. So you see, motion design is so important in visual storytelling that the motion graphics the graphics which you animate can be used on various platforms. So this makes it easier for companies to project their products, convey their messages and their stories to people on all kinds of platforms. There's no limitation. You can use motion graphics on WhatsApp. You can send WhatsApp status to people, videos on WhatsApp. So it is not limited. Are we together? The seed point. So moving to the seed point we're looking at is global accessibility. And under global accessibility, I want us to understand that animated content can transcend language barriers.
that is, that is not limited, are we together, to any language. That is, motion design is not limited to any language. Why? Because it has to do with visuals, it has to do with what is seen. So even without there being any language added to it, just by you seeing those animated graphics, you can get an idea of what is the message that is being conveyed. So motion design is not limited to any language, so it can be done in any and every language, thereby making it easy for anyone in any part of the world to understand, whether there's an explanation or not, just for the fact that the visuals, when just if a motion graphic project is done properly, even without an explanation, just the animations, you can see and have an idea of what is going on altogether. So guys, in conclusion, I want us to understand that motion graphics are a very powerful tool for visual storytelling, and by combining animation, design principles, and sound design, motion graphics can effectively engage viewers and explain complex concepts and leave a lasting impression. So that is it for this section of the course. So see you in the next section.